Emma had dreamed of this moment for as long as she could remember. Ever since she was a little girl standing in front of her bedroom mirror and pretending to be the star of a Broadway show, she knew what she wanted: to perform. She imagined herself bathed in bright stage lights, hearing the roar of applause from an audience that adored her. For years, she worked tirelessly toward that dream. She took acting classes, auditioned for every role she could find, and even juggled odd jobs just to pay rent while chasing opportunities. It wasn't easy, but Emma refused to give up. Her determination finally paid off when she received an invitation to audition for a major Broadway production. This was it, the chance of a lifetime. On the morning of the audition, Emma woke up early, her heart racing with excitement. She double-checked everything she needed: her script, her headshots, and her outfit. As she stepped out of her tiny apartment into the bustling streets of New York City, she felt like she was walking on air. The city buzzed around her, honking cars, shouting vendors, and people rushing to their destinations, but Emma barely noticed. All she could think about was how today might change her life forever. She practiced her lines under her breath as she walked, rehearsing each word carefully. "Don't mess this up," she whispered to herself. "You've waited so long for this." With every step closer to the theater, her confidence grew. But fate has a way of surprising us when we least expect it. As Emma turned a corner near Times Square, she spotted someone who didn't seem to belong in the fast-paced rhythm of the city. A woman stood by the subway entrance, clutching a crumpled map in one hand and a small bag in the other. Her face was pale, and her eyes darted anxiously between the map and the signs above her. Tears welled up in her eyes as she tried to ask passers-by for directions, but no one stopped to help. People hurried past her, too busy or too indifferent to notice her distress. Emma hesitated. She glanced at her watch. There wasn't much time left before her audition, and any delay could cost her the opportunity she'd been dreaming of. Still, something about the woman's plight tugged at her heartstrings. Emma couldn't shake the feeling that she should do something. Taking a deep breath, she approached the stranger. "Excuse me," Emma said softly, trying not to startle her. "Do you need help?" The woman looked up, surprised. For a moment, she seemed unsure whether to trust Emma, but then she nodded. "Yes, please," she replied, her voice trembling. "I'm trying to get to an office building downtown, but I can't figure out which train to take. I've never been to New York before." Emma studied the map in the woman's hands. It was clear that she was completely lost. "Where are you headed?" Emma asked. The woman explained that she was going to a job interview. Her name was Clara, and she was a single mother from a small town. She had traveled all the way to the city for this interview because it was her only chance to secure a stable job and keep her family afloat. If she didn't make it on time, she risked losing the opportunity and possibly her home. Hearing Clara's story made Emma's chest tighten. Here was someone fighting battles far greater than her own dreams. Emma thought about her audition again. Missing it would mean giving up years of hard work and sacrifice. But looking at Clara, she realized that some things mattered more than personal success. Without another moment's hesitation, Emma made a decision. "I'll help you," she said firmly. Clara's eyes widened in disbelief. "Are you sure? You don't have to do this." "Yes, I do," Emma replied, though part of her wondered if she was making a huge mistake. The two women set off together, navigating the crowded streets of Manhattan. They hopped onto a subway train, squeezed into tight spaces among commuters, and consulted maps to ensure they were heading in the right direction. Along the way, Clara opened up about her life. She told Emma about her two young children, who meant everything to her. She spoke about the challenges of raising them alone after her husband passed away unexpectedly. She shared how hard it had been to scrape together enough money for this trip, knowing that failure wasn't an option. Listening to Clara's story, Emma felt a mix of emotions: admiration for her strength, guilt over her own worries, and a growing sense of purpose. She realized that helping Clara wasn't just about guiding her to an address. It was about being there for someone who truly needed support. By the time they reached the office building where Clara's interview was taking place, Emma knew she had done the right thing. But as she watched Clara rush inside, gratitude written all over her face, Emma couldn't ignore the nagging voice in her head. She checked her watch and sighed. There was no way she could make it to her audition on time now. Walking back through the city streets, Emma felt a strange mix of relief and regret. Relief because she had helped someone in need, and regret because she had let go of her lifelong dream. What if this was the only chance she'd ever get? What if she spent the rest of her life wondering what could have been? For the next few days, Emma replayed the events in her mind over and over. Had she made the wrong choice? Would she ever forgive herself for giving up such a big opportunity? Despite her doubts, one thing was certain. Meeting Clara had changed something inside her. It had reminded her that life wasn't just about chasing dreams. It was also about making choices that mattered. And sometimes those choices came with sacrifices. Little did Emma know, this was only the beginning of a journey that would transform her life in ways she couldn't yet imagine. After saying goodbye to Clara, Emma trudged back through the streets of New York City with a heavy heart. The weight of her decision pressed down on her shoulders like a storm cloud that refused to break. Every step felt heavier than the last, each one taking her further away from the dream she had worked so hard for. Her mind raced with questions she couldn't answer. What if I hadn't stopped? What if I'd pushed through and made it to the audition? Would my life be different right now? The city around her seemed indifferent to her turmoil. Cars honked impatiently, people rushed by without a second glance, and the towering skyscrapers loomed overhead as if mocking her smallness in the grand scheme of things. She tried to distract herself by focusing on the sights and sounds, but nothing could drown out the voice inside her head whispering, "You gave up your big break." By the time Emma reached her tiny apartment, exhaustion had settled into her bones. She collapsed onto the worn-out couch, staring blankly at the ceiling. For years, this room had been her sanctuary, a place where she rehearsed lines, dreamed of stardom, and reminded herself why she kept going despite all the rejections. Now, it felt suffocating. The walls seemed to close in on her, reminding her of everything she had lost. Emma spent the next few days trying to pick up the pieces of her shattered plans. She called the casting director's office, hoping they might still consider her, but the response was curt and final. "We've moved on to other candidates." That short sentence hit her like a punch to the gut. It wasn't just rejection, it was closure. There would be no second chances, no callbacks, no opportunity to prove herself. The door she had waited so long to open had slammed shut forever. To make matters worse, reality quickly set in. Without the promise of a steady income from acting gigs, Emma found herself drowning in bills. Rent was due soon, groceries were running low, and her phone screen flashed constant reminders of unpaid credit card debt. Desperation crept in as she scoured job listings online, applying for anything that might bring in some cash. Within a week, she landed a part-time gig as a barista at a cafe near Times Square. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid the rent, at least for now. Working behind the counter was humbling. Customers snapped at her when their orders took too long. Spilled coffee went unnoticed until it soaked through her shoes, and the hours dragged on endlessly. But what hurt most was seeing aspiring actors walk in, sipping lattes while flipping through scripts or rehearsing lines under their breath. Each one reminded her of who she used to be, someone with hope, ambition, and a future full of possibilities. Despite the monotony of her new routine, thoughts of Clara lingered in the back of Emma's mind. A few days after their encounter, Clara called to thank her again. Her voice was warm and filled with gratitude. "I can't tell you how much your kindness meant to me," Clara said. "I got the job thanks to you. My kids won't lose our home." Emma forced a smile, even though Clara couldn't see it. "That's wonderful news," she replied. "I'm really happy for you." Clara hesitated before continuing. "Listen, I know we just met, but I'd love for you to come visit sometime. You're always welcome at my place. You'll get to meet my kids. They're amazing." Emma appreciated the gesture, but visiting felt like crossing a line she wasn't ready to cross. Helping Clara had been an act of compassion, not a way to form a connection. Besides, what did they really have in common? Clara lived in a world of responsibilities, raising children, working multiple jobs, keeping a roof over their heads, while Emma didn't even know who she was anymore. "I'll think about it," Emma said politely before ending the call. As the weeks turned into months, Emma fell into a rhythm of survival. She woke up early for her shift at the cafe, came home exhausted, and spent her evenings scrolling through social media, watching videos of friends who were succeeding where she had failed. Some had landed roles in TV shows. Others were performing in sold-out theaters. Their achievements stung, but she told herself it didn't matter. Acting had been her dream once, but dreams change, don't they? Yet no matter how hard she tried to move on, something about Clara's story stuck with her. Late at night, when the city quieted down and the silence became unbearable, Emma found herself replaying their conversation in her mind. Clara had spoken with such determination, such resilience. She had faced loss, poverty, and fear, yet she refused to give up. How did she do it? Where did she find the strength to keep going when everything seemed hopeless? One evening, as Emma sat alone in her dimly lit apartment nursing a cup of tea, she realized something important. Helping Clara hadn't just changed Clara's life, it had changed hers too. Before that day, Emma had been laser-focused on her own goals, blind to the struggles of those around her. Meeting Clara had opened her eyes to a bigger picture, one where success wasn't measured by applause or accolades, but by the impact you had on others' lives. Still, acceptance didn't come easily. Emma wrestled with guilt and regret, wondering if she'd made the wrong choice. Had she thrown away her dream for nothing? Or had she stumbled upon something far greater, a chance to redefine what truly mattered to her? Then, out of the blue, Clara reached out again. This time, it wasn't just a casual invitation, it was an offer. Clara worked for a non-profit organization dedicated to providing arts education to underprivileged children. Impressed by Emma's selflessness, Clara wanted her to join their team as a drama instructor. At first, Emma laughed nervously. Teaching? She had never considered herself a teacher. Her dream had always been to perform, not to stand behind the scenes guiding others. But curiosity got the better of her. One Saturday afternoon, she visited the community center where Clara volunteered. The moment she stepped inside, she felt a spark of excitement she hadn't felt in months. Kids ran around laughing, their energy infectious. Paintings covered the walls, and the faint sound of music drifted from another room. It was chaotic, messy, and beautiful all at once. Clara introduced her to the staff and showed her around. "Think about it," Clara said with a hopeful smile. "These kids need someone like you, someone who understands what it means to chase a dream." Emma left the center that day with mixed feelings. On one hand, the idea of teaching terrified her. Could she really inspire others when she barely knew how to inspire herself? On the other hand, the thought of sharing her passion with children who craved creativity excited her in a way she hadn't expected. For the first time in months, Emma allowed herself to imagine a different path, one that didn't involve standing in the spotlight but instead involved lighting the way for others. Maybe, just maybe, she hadn't lost her dream after all. Perhaps she had simply found a new way to live it. Little did she know, this decision would lead her down a road filled with unexpected challenges, friendships, and opportunities that would reshape her understanding of success and herself forever. Emma's decision to join the nonprofit organization wasn't made lightly. For days after her visit to the community center, she wrestled with doubts and fears. Could she really teach drama? She had spent years dreaming of being on stage, not standing in front of a classroom guiding others. What if she failed? What if these kids saw through her uncertainty and lost interest? The thought of disappointing them and herself kept her awake at night. But something about Clara's words stuck with her. "These kids need someone like you," Clara had said. Emma replayed that sentence over and over in her mind. Sure, she wasn't a trained teacher, but she knew what it felt like to chase a dream. She understood how hard it was to believe in yourself when no one else did. Maybe that was enough. Maybe sharing her struggles, Her failures, and her love for acting, could inspire these kids to find their own voices. With a mix of excitement and nervousness, Emma agreed to give it a try. Her first day as a drama instructor arrived sooner than she expected. As she walked into the community center, clutching a notebook filled with ideas, she felt butterflies fluttering in her stomach. The room buzzed with energy. Children of all ages sat cross-legged on the floor, chatting and laughing while waiting for the session to begin. Their eyes lit up when Emma entered, curious about this new face who had promised to teach them about acting. "Hi, everyone," Emma greeted them, warmly, though her voice wavered slightly. "I'm Emma and I'll be your drama teacher." A boy in the front row raised his hand eagerly. "Are we going to act like superheroes?" he asked, his eyes wide with anticipation. Emma smiled, feeling some of her nerves melt away. "Maybe someday," she replied. "But today, let's start with something simpler. Let's talk about storytelling." Over the next hour, Emma guided the kids through exercises designed to spark their imagination. They played games where they acted out emotions without using words, created short skits based on random prompts, and even practiced speaking lines from famous plays. At first, many of the children were shy, hesitant to step outside their comfort zones. But as the session went on, their confidence grew. By the end of the class, laughter filled the room, and Emma realized she hadn't thought about her own worries once during the entire hour. One child stood out to her, a quiet boy named Marcus who rarely spoke unless spoken to. During the group activities, he lingered at the edges, watching, rather than participating. Emma noticed him scribbling in a notebook whenever there was a break, but when she asked if he wanted to share what he was writing, he shook his head firmly. After class, Emma approached Marcus gently. "Hey, I saw you writing earlier," she said. "Do you like stories?" Marcus nodded, still avoiding eye contact. "I write my own sometimes," he admitted softly. "That's amazing," Emma exclaimed. "Would you ever want to turn one of your stories into a play? You could act it out or have your friends help you perform it." For a moment, Marcus hesitated. Then slowly he nodded again. "Maybe," he whispered. That small exchange stayed with Emma long after the day ended. It reminded her why she had fallen in love with acting in the first place. The magic of creating worlds, exploring emotions, and discovering parts of yourself you never knew existed. These kids weren't just learning how to act. They were learning how to express themselves, build confidence, and connect with others. And somehow, helping them do that reignited a spark within Emma that she thought she'd lost forever. As weeks turned into months, Emma grew more comfortable in her role. She began to see each child not just as a student but as an individual with unique talents and dreams. There was Sophia, whose bold personality shone brightest when she performed comedic roles. There was Liam, who struggled with reading aloud but transformed into a confident speaker whenever he stepped onto the makeshift stage. And then there was Marcus, who gradually opened up, sharing snippets of his stories and eventually agreeing to act in a short play he wrote himself. Teaching brought challenges too. Some days the kids were restless and uncooperative, testing Emma's patience. Other days funding shortages threatened to shut down programs altogether. But through it all, Emma found joy in the little victories. A shy child speaking up for the first time, a group working together to solve a creative problem, or the sound of applause filling the room after a performance. Each moment reminded her that success didn't always look like Broadway lights or magazine covers. Sometimes it looked like a child smiling proudly because they accomplished something they never thought possible. Clara became a constant source of support during this time. She often stopped by the center to check on Emma and the kids, bringing snacks or offering encouragement. Their friendship deepened as they shared stories about their lives. Clara introduced Emma to her two children, Mia and Ethan, who quickly warmed up to her. Spending time with Clara's family gave Emma a glimpse into a life she had never experienced, one filled with love, responsibility, and resilience. "You're good at this," Clara told Emma one evening after watching a rehearsal. "You've got a gift?" Emma laughed nervously. "I don't know about that. I'm just figuring things out as I go." "Well, whatever you're doing, it's working," Clara replied. "Look at them. They adore you. Glancing around the room, Emma realized Clara was right. The kids trusted her, respected her, and looked forward to seeing her every week. In return, she felt a sense of purpose she hadn't known before. Teaching wasn't just a job, it was a way to make a difference. Then, one evening, as Emma was packing up after a particularly successful rehearsal, Clara approached her with an idea that would change everything. "Listen," Clara began, her tone serious yet excited. "We've been talking about expanding our programs to reach more communities. If we can secure additional funding, we could hire more instructors and organize larger performances. I think you'd be perfect to lead this initiative." Emma stared at her, stunned. "Me? Lead it? I'm not qualified for that." "You underestimate yourself," Clara said firmly. "You've already done so much here. Imagine what you could accomplish if you had more resources and support." The thought terrified Emma. Leading a project of that scale felt overwhelming, especially since she still doubted her abilities. But deep down, she couldn't deny the thrill of possibility. This wasn't just about teaching anymore. It was about creating opportunities for kids who might otherwise never discover their potential. "I'll think about it," Emma said finally, though part of her already knew the answer. That night, as she lay in bed reflecting on Clara's offer, Emma realized something important. Helping Clara months ago had set off a chain reaction she never could have predicted. It had led her to this moment, where she stood on the brink of a new chapter, not as a performer seeking fame, but as someone determined to make a lasting impact. Little did she know, this was only the beginning. The ripple effects of her kindness were far from over, and the journey ahead would challenge her in ways she couldn't yet imagine. But for the first time in a long time, Emma felt hopeful. Whatever came next, she knew she was ready to face it. Emma's decision to lead the nonprofit's expansion initiative marked a turning point in her life. At first, the idea overwhelmed her. How could she, someone who had spent years chasing personal dreams on stage, suddenly take charge of such a massive project? But as Clara assured her, "You don't have to know everything right away, you just have to start." Those words became Emma's mantra as she dove headfirst into planning, fundraising, and recruiting new instructors for the program. The work was grueling but rewarding. Emma spent countless hours drafting proposals, meeting with potential donors, and visiting schools to spread awareness about the importance of arts education. She quickly learned that running an organization required skills she hadn't anticipated: negotiation, public speaking, and even basic accounting. But she tackled each challenge with determination. Every time she felt like giving up, she reminded herself of the faces of the children she was helping. Their smiles kept her going. One evening, after a particularly long day of meetings, Emma returned to the community center to check on the kids, rehearsal for an upcoming showcase. As she stepped inside, she was greeted by a familiar voice calling her name. Turning around, she saw someone she hadn't expected, an old friend from her theater days named Daniel. "Emma," Daniel exclaimed, walking toward her with a broad grin. "I can't believe it's you." Emma blinked in surprise. "Daniel, what are you doing here?" "I heard about this place," he replied, gesturing to the bustling room behind him. "A mutual friend mentioned your work with the nonprofit. I had to see it for myself." His gaze shifted to the group of children practicing lines on stage. "This is incredible. These kids are talented." Emma smiled modestly. "They've come so far. It's amazing what they can do when given the chance." As they caught up, Daniel shared that he was casting for a new independent film, one that focused on themes of community and resilience. He described the main character as someone selfless, passionate, and deeply connected to those around them. Listening to his description, Emma couldn't help but feel a pang of nostalgia. That kind of role used to be her dream. "You should audition," Daniel said suddenly, interrupting her thoughts. Emma laughed nervously. "Me? No, I haven't acted in years. Besides, I'm busy with this project now." "Exactly," Daniel countered. "That's why you'd be perfect. This character has depth, complexity, qualities I see in you every time we talk. Plus, it's not a lead role, it's more of a supporting part. Think about it. You owe it to yourself to try." For the rest of the night, Emma wrestled with Daniel's suggestion. Acting again felt like stepping back into a world she had left behind, one filled with uncertainty and rejection. Yet something about the offer intrigued her. Maybe it wasn't about reclaiming her old dream. It was about embracing a new opportunity to tell meaningful stories. After much deliberation, Emma decided to give it a shot. With Clara's encouragement, she took a weekend off from her responsibilities at the nonprofit to prepare for the audition. Standing in front of the casting panel, she felt a mix of nerves and excitement. When asked why she wanted the role, Emma spoke honestly about her journey, from pursuing stardom to finding fulfillment in teaching, and how those experiences shaped her perspective as an artist. To her astonishment, she landed the part. Filming the movie proved to be both challenging and healing. Emma poured her heart into the character, drawing inspiration from her own life and the lives of the people she had met along the way. On set, she formed bonds with fellow actors and crew members who shared her passion for storytelling. For the first time in years, she felt like she belonged, not because of fame or recognition, but because she was contributing to something bigger than herself. Meanwhile, her work with the nonprofit continued to grow. Under Emma's leadership, the organization expanded its reach, partnering with schools and community centers across the city. More instructors joined the team, bringing fresh ideas and energy to the program. Performances became larger and more elaborate, drawing attention from local media and attracting new supporters. Clara remained a steadfast ally throughout it all. Together, they celebrated milestones, like securing a major grant that ensured the program's sustainability for years to come, and navigated setbacks, such as losing a key donor during a financial crisis. Through it all, their friendship deepened. Emma often visited Clara's home, spending time with Mia and Ethan, who affectionately called her Auntie Emma. In many ways, Clara's family had become her own, filling a void she hadn't realized existed. One afternoon, as Emma sat on Clara's couch flipping through photos of past performances, Clara brought up a topic that had been on her mind for a while. "You've done so much for these kids," Clara said thoughtfully. "But I wonder, do you ever think about telling your story? Not just through acting, but through speaking? People need to hear what you've been through, the sacrifices you've made, the lessons you've learned. It could inspire others to follow their hearts, even when it's hard." Emma frowned, unsure of what to say. "I'm not sure I'm ready for that," she admitted. "Public speaking terrifies me." "It doesn't have to be scary," Clara reassured her. "Start small. Maybe share your experience at a local event. Once you realize how much people connect with your story, you'll want to keep going." Though hesitant, Emma agreed to consider it. A few weeks later, she received an invitation to speak at a TEDx event hosted by a nearby university. The theme of the conference was redefining success, and the organizers believed Emma's journey perfectly embodied the message they wanted to convey. After some persuasion from Clara and a lot of practice in front of the mirror, Emma accepted the invitation. Preparing for the talk was nerve-wracking. Emma spent hours crafting her speech, revisiting memories she had buried and reflecting on how far she had come. She practiced delivering it to Clara, who offered constructive feedback and endless encouragement. By the day of the event, Emma felt as prepared as she could be. Walking onto the stage, she took a deep breath and looked out at the audience. Hundreds of eyes stared back at her, waiting for her to begin. For a moment, she felt paralyzed by fear. Then she remembered Clara's advice. Speak from the heart. As Emma began to talk, her nerves melted away. She shared her story openly, the dreams she had sacrificed, the struggles she faced afterward, and the unexpected joys she discovered through teaching. She spoke about the power of kindness, the importance of redefining success, and the transformative impact of helping others. By the time she finished, the room erupted in applause. In the weeks following the TEDx talk, Emma's story went viral. Social media platforms buzzed with clips of her speech, and news outlets reached out to interview her. People from all over the world sent messages thanking her for sharing her journey and inspiring them to pursue their passions no matter the obstacles. Through it all, Emma remained grounded. She knew her newfound visibility came with responsibility. Instead of focusing on accolades, she used her platform to advocate for arts education and highlight the work of the nonprofit. Donations poured in, allowing the organization to expand even further and touch more lives. Looking back, Emma marveled at how everything had unfolded. Helping Clara that fateful day had set off a chain reaction she never could have predicted. It had led her to discover a deeper sense of purpose, reconnect with her love for acting, and inspire countless others along the way. Yet, despite all the changes, one thing remained constant: the bond she shared with Clara. Together they had built something extraordinary, a legacy rooted in compassion, creativity, and resilience. And though Emma's path had taken many twists and turns, she finally understood that true success wasn't about achieving a single dream. It was about creating ripples of positive change that extended far beyond herself. Little did she know, her journey was far from over. The ripple effects of her kindness were still spreading, touching lives in ways she couldn't yet imagine. And as long as she continued to follow her heart, there was no telling where the next wave might carry her. Years had passed since Emma first stepped into the bustling streets of New York City, her heart brimming with dreams of Broadway stardom. She had imagined that success would look a certain way, standing under dazzling lights, hearing thunderous applause, and seeing her name in headlines. But life, as it often does, took her down an entirely different path, one filled with unexpected challenges, profound connections, and a deeper understanding of what truly mattered. Emma now stood on a stage unlike any she had envisioned. It wasn't a grand theater or a film set. It was a TEDx podium, surrounded by hundreds of people eager to hear her story. As she gazed out at the audience, she felt a mix of emotions: gratitude for how far she'd come, humility at being given this platform, and a quiet awe at the ripple effect of one simple act of kindness years ago. Her speech resonated deeply with listeners worldwide. Clips of her talk went viral, sparking conversations about redefining success, embracing compassion, and finding purpose beyond personal ambition. Messages flooded in from strangers sharing how her story inspired them to make changes in their own lives. Some wrote about leaving toxic jobs to pursue passions they thought were long lost. Others described acts of generosity they performed after hearing her speak, hoping to create similar ripples of positivity. For Emma, the attention was overwhelming but affirming. She realized that her journey wasn't just about her, it was about everyone who had been touched along the way. Clara's family became like her own, offering unconditional support and reminding her daily of the power of human connection. The nonprofit organization flourished under her leadership, expanding its reach to underserved communities across multiple cities. Children who once doubted themselves discovered talents they never knew they had, thanks to programs Emma helped build. But perhaps the most surprising development came when Daniel, the director of the independent film she starred in, approached her with another opportunity. "Your performance in the movie struck a chord with audiences," he told her during a casual lunch meeting. "We've been getting requests for sequels and spin-offs, but I have something else in mind, a documentary series based on your life and work." Emma raised an eyebrow skeptically. "A documentary? About me?" "Not just you," Daniel clarified. "About the movement you've sparked. We want to highlight the importance of arts education, showcase the kids you've impacted, and explore how small acts of kindness can lead to big changes." At first, Emma hesitated. Putting her life under a microscope felt daunting, especially since she still struggled with self-doubt. But after discussing it with Clara, who reminded her of the potential impact such a project could have, Emma agreed to move forward. The documentary team spent months filming interviews, capturing moments at rehearsals, and documenting performances. They traveled to schools where Emma's program had expanded, speaking with teachers, parents, and students whose lives had been transformed. One particularly moving segment featured Marcus, the shy boy Emma had mentored years earlier. Now a teenager, Marcus proudly showed off his first published short story and credited Emma with helping him find his voice. When the documentary premiered, it received widespread acclaim. Critics praised its authenticity and emotional depth, while viewers lauded Emma's unwavering dedication to making a difference. The film not only brought more visibility to the nonprofit, but also inspired donors to contribute generously, ensuring the organization's growth for years to come. Despite these achievements, Emma remained humble. She often reflected on how everything traced back to that pivotal moment when she chose to help Clara. "If I hadn't stopped that day," she mused aloud during a quiet evening at home, "none of this would have happened. My life might have taken a completely different direction." Clara, sitting beside her on the couch, smiled warmly. "And if you hadn't stopped, my life, and my kids' lives, might have fallen apart. You saved us, Emma. And in doing so, you saved yourself too." Emma nodded thoughtfully. She had learned that giving wasn't a one-sided transaction. It created a cycle of mutual benefit. By helping Clara, she had opened herself up to new possibilities, relationships, and perspectives. And through those experiences, she had found a sense of fulfillment far greater than anything fame could offer. As time went on, Emma continued to evolve. She became a sought-after speaker, sharing her insights at conferences, universities, and corporate events. Her message was simple yet powerful. Success isn't measured by accolades or wealth, but by the positive impact we have on others. She encouraged audiences to embrace vulnerability, take risks, and trust that even the smallest gestures of kindness could lead to extraordinary outcomes. Her bond with Clara grew stronger with each passing year. Together, they celebrated milestones: the Addii nonprofit's 10th anniversary, Mia graduating high school, Ethan winning a science fair, and navigated challenges, including funding shortages and logistical hurdles. Through it all, their partnership thrived because it was built on trust, respect, and shared values. One sunny afternoon, as Emma walked through the community center she had helped build, she paused to watch a group of children rehearsing a play. Their laughter echoed through the halls, filling her with a sense of peace. In that moment, she realized something profound. She had finally found her true calling. Not as a performer seeking validation, but as someone empowering others to shine. Looking back, Emma understood that her journey wasn't linear. It was messy, unpredictable, and full of detours. Yet every twist and turn had led her exactly where she was meant to be. She no longer regretted missing her Broadway audition because she knew she had achieved something far greater. A legacy, rooted in love, resilience, and hope. As she stepped outside into the vibrant city she called home, Emma felt a deep sense of gratitude. The road ahead was uncertain, but she faced it with confidence, knowing that her choices, no matter how difficult, had shaped not only her life, but countless others. In the end, Emma's story served as a reminder that sometimes, the greatest successes aren't the ones we plan for, but the ones we stumble upon when we least expect them. By choosing compassion over ambition, she had transformed her world and inspired others to do the same.